Hey, grade sixes, we're going to continue with our word usage today. It's a good lesson today. A lot of us actually need this lesson. Adults have gone through a lot of life having missed this section in their schooling. So it's really good that you do have a look at this. So M5, describe the difference between related words. We're doing M5 and M6 today in your English. Let's have a look at that. Okay. So describe the difference between related words. Which is slower, right? Plodding or scurrying? Let's just look here at this example here. Some words are alike, but they have small differences in meaning. Those differences called shades of meaning. For example, think about the words stare, peek, and glare, right? All of them have a type of a meaning. Let's look at them. Stare. That means to look at something for a while, right? You've been staring at it, you're trying to figure it out. You might be staring at a problem, or you may just be zoning off into a thought bubble and your eyes are still open and you're just staring out into space. And that's two different ways of staring. You might be looking at somebody or something that is unusual, and we've probably been told it's rude to stare at people. So that's the definition of staring. Peek is to look at something quickly. Yeah, let me take a peek. You look quickly, peek-a-boo with playing with a baby. All right, some quick little peek around the corner to see if someone's coming. If they're playing hide and seek, there's your game. Glare. That's to look at something in an angry way, right? So if I am trying to have a Zoom meeting with the teacher huddle in the morning and Alex comes running and shouting and things, then I will glare at him to stop making such a noise or something like that, right? So it might be an angry connotation behind that. All of them mean similar things, but you would, depending on the context, you would choose carefully which word would best describe how you're doing. You could say, I looked at him angrily, but a better word to be using is to be, oh, I glared at him, right? And this is excellent for your writing, to be able to learn which words can actually, you can use one word to eliminate maybe a sentence of description. That one word sums up exactly what you're trying to say. The thesauruses come in great hand. It's really handy at this point. Stare, peek, and glare all mean to look at something, but in different ways. So let's look at some examples. Okay, so which is slower, plodding or scurrying? Scurrying, that makes me think of a little rat running around scurrying, or a little chipmunk outside scurrying from place to place, squirrels. All right, plodding, more like an elephant, where it's like step by step by step by step. So plodding is definitely a slower. Both are movement, ways to move, walk, run. I wouldn't plod. I don't think, maybe my type of running is more like plodding. Yeah, and definitely not scurrying. Oh, we actually have to submit our answer. Plodding is the slower one. Okay, let's look at the next one. Which word suggests more intelligence? Being smart or being brilliant, right? So both would suggest intelligent. Let's try brilliant. I would say, wow, that's brilliant. He is brilliant at that, right? He is smart. Yeah, he's a smart person. She's a smart person. I would say brilliant is a lot more. Let's see what they say. Yep. Excuse me. Right. Which is more intense? Feeling tired? Feeling exhausted. Okay. It's a lot more of an intense feeling. Exhaustion, like you ended a marathon, you're so exhausted. Feeling tired, you're like, that you could carry on a little bit, right? Feeling exhausted is when you're at your end. All right, good. So these are good words to use. If you're having trouble, again, my best suggestion is to make a list. You might be learning a lot of vocabulary today. And that's great. The more you get wrong, the more you're learning. So keep in mind that's how you're doing. Don't get frustrated if it is starting to frustrate you because perhaps you haven't seen these words before. Take a break, go to a different part of your learning, come back to it. That's always, I find, very helpful. So let's look at M6. Now, each word again, when you have to be careful about the tone that you use with people. I think you may have heard somebody say, oh, I don't really like the tone that that person used, or they might be speaking to you saying, not so sure that's a great tone. You need to be careful of the tone of your voice or what tone of your words. Like sometimes even an email may have a bad tone. If you're like writing to somebody and you're using very expressive words that have negative connotations versus another word that may be a little bit more polite or a happier way to look at something, right? So let's look at a couple of options here again. Add to your notes as you go through this. So I'm excited about the work that you're going to learn today about using good positive connotation words and trying to avoid negative connotation words. Unless you're specifically wanting to give a negative connotation, but we'll see if that ever comes up. Okay, so let's have a look. Which phrase has a more negative connotation? A bullheaded employee or a persistent employee? Okay, so if an employee is being persistent, that means that that employee keeps asking and keeps asking. You might be asking for, I don't know, a cookie out of the jar or something, and mom says no. A lot of moms have the rule, like mine, if you ask again, well, then it's no tomorrow also. So that tells me to stop being persistent about something, but sometimes it's good to be persistent. If there's something that you really believe strongly about, then being persistent is a way for you to be standing up and yeah, really, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, just really standing up for what you believe in. That's a good thing as well. All right, so being persistent, but being bullheaded often comes to mind if people are just like, I don't care about you, this is what I want. All right, so that's a much more negative connotation about exactly the same thing, really. So as a boss, he could call or she could call an employee a bullheaded person, or exact same scenario could be calling that person an employee persistent. All right, persistent is a much more positive spin on the word. All right, let's look at this one. Which phrase has a more positive connotation? So keep looking at that green sentence to make sure if you are following the exact question, don't keep getting into a rut of thinking it's going to be a negative and suddenly it changes on you and it's asking for a positive one. In this case, it's asking for a positive one, a snicker or a chuckle, right? Oh, he chuckled at that joke, or he snickered, right? That usually is something when someone will snicker if maybe they see somebody hurt themselves, and they're like, they're quite mean and they might enjoy watching somebody else getting hurt, or they snicker because they've been reprimanded or disciplined and they don't like that, and so they'll snicker sort of to themselves. It's kind of a rude thing to do. So a chuckle, if you're perhaps reading some comics and you're chuckling off to yourself, no one's getting offended by that, but a snicker is specifically directed towards somebody. So the positive connotation is a chuckle. All right, so can you imagine reading these words in a writing and just using the difference of those two words, if somebody were to chuckle, that would create the picture of a much more pleasant environment than if somebody snickered. Then you'd think, ooh, that tells me a lot more about that character, about the situation, maybe the relationship that person has with whoever they're snickering at or about. Okay, so these words are fantastic. I love them. All right, and use them in your writing. Okay, positive and negative connotation. Which phrase has a more positive connotation? A very stingy person or a thrifty person? So somebody who's stingy is somebody who is like, nope, I'm not going to share with you. I'm going to hold on to what's mine and I'm not going to let other people have any of it. Okay, that's being kind of stingy. But the same person, same situation is, well, I don't have a lot of money, so I can't actually give you stuff. That is, I'm going to work way to be able to use my resources very wisely. And to be honest, you don't really need to not have money. You can have a lot of money and still be thrifty. That means to use your resources really well. Okay, so if you go about giving your things away to everybody, then that might not be a thrifty way to do it and to look after your things. for sure, as Christians, we're asked to be giving of our time, of our energy, of our money. That is not what's in question here. To be thrifty and still to be giving to God as He has asked us to, that is an important thing. But I think it's more about the stewardship of what we're using that for, right? And it's not necessarily even money. You might have, like, we go to what Alex calls the cookie shop at Zares, and that's where he gets a free cookie. Not at the moment, unfortunately, but he will be quite stingy about sharing. He'll always share, always share, but it's like usually this tiny little crumb that he will give to myself or my husband as the part that he's sharing with us. So that is definitely called being stingy. So a thrifty person is a lot more positive in this case. All right, I hope you have fun learning words. Feel free to chat with your parents about these words as well, because they would have a lot more experience with them. Use a dictionary. You could have an online dictionary at the moment. You could have one that perhaps you've got one in a book form in your house. That would be awesome. But yeah, getting some help in this might be very helpful. If you can get through it without help, that's fantastic. If not, then I'm excited about how much you're going to be learning. I hope you enjoy it. Have a great day and a great weekend if I don't see you after this. Cheer for now.